disaster relief centres to be set up in 9 states. Malaysia records agri commodity export of 117 billion ringgit. Good evening, Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Permanent Disaster Relief Centres, PPKB, will be established immediately with the pilot project to begin in 9 states. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the PPKB involves a ceiling cost of 5 million ringgit for each centre and is set to provide better protection for flood evacuees than temporary relief centres PPS.
Kalau kita hadapi banjir itu setiap tahun, tidak mensabah dijadikan hanya PPS. Sebab itu kerajaan telah memutuskan untuk menubuhkan segera pusat pemindahan bencana ini. Di pusat ini boleh mungkin gunakan apa-apa kegiatan komuniti sementara, tetapi di-reserve dengan satu persiapan supaya tidak jadi PPS. Jadi kemudahan itu akan jauh lebih baik.
The Premier also said an early allocation of 241 million ringgit had been channeled for use in 164 districts in the spirit of Malaysia Madani. He said maintenance works have been carried out in addition to activating the operations control rooms, forecast centres and flood warnings, which will operate for 24 hours. In a related development, the Prime Minister said pre-flood preparations have been stepped up through community-based disaster risk management, and that even in the Department of Irrigation and Drainage has identified 5,648 flood hotspots. He noted that the authorities have placed 73 mobile pumps at all flood hotspots nationwide, as well as upgraded the flood warning siren system and web camera stations.
Ialah pusat pemindahan sementara, iaitu mengaktifkan 8,481. Ini tangsi yang betul ialah untuk mengelakkan kelang kabut keadaan bila banjir berlaku. Jadi persiapan dimulakan sekarang walaupun kawasan-kawasan itu belum terkena ataupun melibatkan kesan yang parah. Dia persiapan untuk menempatkan 1.62 juta mangsa.
Regarding flood mitigation, Datuk Seri Anwar said there are now 6 projects on schedule, while dozens of other projects are in the final lap to begin operational in 1 or 2 months throughout the peninsula as well as in Sabah and Sarawak. On the special allocation for parliamentary areas that are frequently hit by floods, he said Kelantan has been given the priority since the state's flood situation is more severe. On another note, the Prime Minister stressed he has never objected or imposed strict conditions in the allocations of funds to opposition members of Parliament MPs. In fact, he wants the rules to be respected, especially in matter concerning development allocations as practiced in the democratic system.
Jadi saya nak tegaskan di sini, walaupun apapun yang diucapkan, dia tidak menghalang daripada perundingan untuk kembalikan peruntukan kepada semua wakil rakyat. Dia ada juga beberapa peraturan. Dia tidak automatik. Seperti mana kita terima perlembagaan. Kita terima peraturan. Dan kita tidak berikan preempt peraturan apa. Saya bagi ruang TPM dengar pandangan mereka, bincang.
The Prime Minister also said there have been no official negotiations regarding the allocations conducted by the opposition bloc. He described it as unreasonable if the opposition refuses to engage in negotiations while they themselves desire a spirit of government opposition democracy. He added he still upholds the principle of fair allocations for MPs as promised in the Pakatan Harapan's manifesto at the last general election. The granting of blanket diesel subsidy gives room for unscrupulous parties to misappropriate the commodity in the black market. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said, as such, it is not reasonable for the government to continue the current method of granting subsidies, as it is unfair to the target group comprising people who really need the assistance. In a speech at the opening of the Symposium on Cost of Living 2023, which was delivered by Acting Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Datuk Amizan Muhammad Ali, Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid said the benefits of the blanket subsidies are also enjoyed by the high-income group and non-citizens. He added that the diesel subsidy, which should benefit fishermen or allow consumers to get value for money for the services and goods they consume, has been abused by certain quarters who are taking advantage of the situation.
Usaha untuk menyasarkan semula subsidi sebenarnya telah lama dirancang, iaitu sejak 1 dekad yang lalu. Walau bagaimanapun, usaha-usaha ini berhadapan dengan pelbagai cabaran dan halangan dalam tempoh tersebut. Namun pada masa ini kerajaan melihat bahawa terdapat keperluan untuk ia diperhalusi semula dan dilaksanakan.
For this year, he said the original allocation for subsidies was 64 billion ringgit, but the government projected the figure to hit 80.9 billion ringgit based on the current expenditures. A continuation of this scenario is not optimum from the fiscal angle. The Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Ministry has conducted an audit on the cooking oil subsidy, with the report expected to be completed in January. Acting Minister Datuk Amizan Muhammad Ali said the audit began last month and it was done following the projection of an increase in cooking oil subsidy by the year's end to 1.9 billion ringgit. According to Datuk Amizan, the initial budget for the cooking oil subsidy this year was 500 million ringgit. But there is a projection of an increase of almost fourfold with the rise of the crude oil price.
Kita telah melaksanakan program audit secara menyeluruh untuk melihat pelaksanaan subsidi minyak ini di seluruh peringkat, seluruh negeri dan juga seluruh daerah. Terdapat dapatan-dapatan tertentu dan saya tidak nafikan wujudnya ketirisan dalam pelaksanaan subsidi minyak masak ini. Dan dengan adanya audit ini, kita dapat membuat penilaian berapakah keperluan sebenar dan bagaimana kaedah untuk kita memperkemaskan. Subsidi perlu, namun perlu dilaksanakan dan perlu ada mekanisme untuk mengurangkan ketirisan dan penyelewengan.
On the seriousness of the situation, he said it is according to the locality and area, with the details to be announced once the audit has been concluded. Police have arrested two men, aged 34 and 37, for uploading social media posts insulting Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah and threatening Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussein said the first arrest was made on Sunday in Kota Baru, Kelantan, against the owner of the Cik Mat Cik Po Facebook account for uploading an insulting post to incite hatred against the ruler. A remand application was made under Section 117 of the Criminal Procedure Code, and the court granted a 4-day remand to facilitate police investigation into the case. The second arrest was made today at Jalan Padang Tembak, also in Kota Baru. It involved the owner of the Elias Jaya Dani 89 TikTok account for uploading social media posts containing elements of criminal threats against the Prime Minister. A 3-day remand order under Section 117 of the Criminal Procedure Code against the man was granted to facilitate police investigation. The public are advised not to make any speculation that could hinder investigations and to be more discerning with sensitive issues related to causing unrest among the people through social media. focusing on technical, vocational, education and training TVET, has been described as a game changer in the country's development to become a developed nation, as well as being able to improve the economy by providing various jobs for the younger generation. Deputy Human Resources Minister Datuk Mustafa Sakmut said that including the 33 Industrial Training Institute ILPs nationwide, students from the TVET stream had a 95% marketability rate in the industrial field, which can generate a high income. The ministry is also implementing a Madani TVET program, which involves visiting TVET alumni who become entrepreneurs through the skills acquired from the ILPs. The ministry has also launched TVET Intake Unit to coordinate applications to avoid duplication, and applications can be made through the website. In addition, the Deputy Minister said he had also visited TVET institutes and universities in China and Singapore to make comparisons so that local TVET institutes will not be left behind in terms of technology, as well as being the benchmark for the program. In our business segment, Johor eyes 60 billion ringgit more investments in Pengerang Petroleum Complex. Plantation and Commodities Ministry or KPK said Malaysia recorded agri-commodity export value of 117 billion ringgit up to 30th September this year. Its Minister Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof said the encouraging performance was achieved even though the country faced various challenges in the global arena due to geopolitical conflicts and uncertain economic developments. The minister said that the government targets to expand the agri-commodity sector to new markets globally by enhancing cooperation and diplomatic relations. Among them are Kenya and China. He also said the agri-commodity sector faces several challenges in its mission to expand its markets, such as the introduction of new rules which could restrict and curb exports.
Sebab itu misi kita, salah satu misi kita ialah pergi ke Belgium untuk berjumpa dengan kepimpinan European Union, dan dari situ bila kita berjumpa misi bersama dengan Indonesia di bawah negara pengeluar kelapa sawit, kita dapat persetujuan untuk mewujudkan ad hoc task force. Ad hoc task force ni dianggotai oleh wakil-wakil daripada European Union, Indonesia dan Malaysia, di mana mesyuarat pertama telah dilaksanakan di Jakarta dalam bulan Ogos yang lalu.
Datuk Seri Fadilah further noted that Malaysia is expected to chair the second meeting of the task force in mid-January 2024 after it was postponed in December 2023. The meeting aims to find solutions on how the EU Deforestation Regulation or EUDR must consider the views of producing countries and discuss the effects of the regulation on the producing countries, particularly smallholders, and the guidelines of the EUDR implementation. Malaysia's export prices rose 1.2% to 146.4 points in October from the previous month, while import prices also increased marginally by 0.5% to 131.3 points from 130.6 points in September. Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzair Mahidin said the higher export unit value in October was attributable to the increase in the Mineral Fuels Index, which climbed 5.9% from the previous month, followed by Manufactured Goods Index up 0.4% and Chemicals Index up 0.3%. Likewise, the export volume index went up by 0.3% in line with the increase of the index of mineral fuels, animal and vegetable oils and fats, and manufactured goods. On a yearly basis, it said both export unit value and export volume indices decreased by 2.2% respectively in October. On import prices, Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzair said the 0.5% growth in October was contributed by the rise in the indices of mineral fuels, machinery and transport equipment and chemicals. Meanwhile, the import volume index also increased by 12.8% compared to the previous month, attributable to the escalation in the indices of mineral fuels, chemicals, as well as machinery and transport equipment. On a year-on-year comparison, the import unit value index declined 1.4%, while volume index grew 1.4% in October this year. The Johor State Government is expecting 60 billion ringgit in additional investments covering various projects at the Pengerang Integrated Petroleum Complex (PIPC) in Kota Tinggi, involving the third phase of the development. State Investment, Trade and Consumer Affairs Committee Chairman Lee Ting Han said the third phase of the PIPC development will cover the years 2026 to 2031 in line with the PIPC Master Plan. 7 various projects in the pipeline are expected to be realised during the development of the third phase of PIPC, including the construction of solar farms, biorefineries and facilities producing nitrile-related products.
Kerajaan Persekutuan telah pun mengumumkan bahawa pembangunan PIPC akan terus disokong melalui pemberian pakej galakan cukai khas atau allowance cukai pelaburan. Inisiatif ini adalah selari dengan Pelan Induk Perindustrian Baharu 2030 dan Chemical Industrial Roadmap 2030, di mana sektor kimia dan petrokimia merupakan salah satu sektor yang digalakkan.
Through Budget 2024, the federal government announced that the PIPC, which is a 9,269-hectare downstream oil and gas and petrochemical industry area in Pengerang, will be made a hub to further develop the chemical and petrochemical industry. Petronas Chemicals Group Berhad PCG announced a profit after tax PAT of 439 million ringgit in third quarter 2023 on the back of 6.8 billion ringgit revenue amidst market and operational challenges during the period. The group's revenue declined 5% quarter-on-quarter from 7.1 billion ringgit in second quarter on lower sales volumes amidst continuing weak demand stemming from slowdown in global manufacturing sector. Specialties segment, which contributed 22% to the group revenue, saw continued destocking activities in the face of fierce competition, particularly in Europe. On a cumulative 9-month basis, PCG posted 21.5 billion ringgit in revenue and profit after tax of 1.6 billion ringgit. Managing Director Chief Executive Officer Mamat Yusri Mamat Yusof meanwhile said in October, the group reached a key milestone in their new plastics economy agenda with the final investment decision to construct an advanced chemical recycling plant in Pengerang, Johor. Targeted to be operational in 2026, the plant will convert end-of-life plastic waste into pyrolysis oil, which will be used as feedstock in the production of sustainable plastics. Tourism Malaysia and Perusahaan Automobil Kedua Sdn Bhd or Perodua today inked a 3-year Memorandum of Collaboration MOC to co-promote tourism in Malaysia starting next year. Tourism Malaysia Director General Dato Dr. Ahmad Abdul Ghaffar said the collaboration signifies a step forward in both parties' collective efforts to enhance the tourism industry, as it is not just a crucial component of the economy but also a reflection of the beauty, diversity and cultural heritage of the nation.
By combining the strength and resources of Perodua and Tourism Malaysia, we are not only aiming to increase the number of tourists but also their overall satisfaction. We want every visitor to leave Malaysia with a profound sense of wonders and a desire to return.
He also noted that promoting tourism was not only done by Tourism Malaysia but should also be the responsibility of various parties or stakeholders through the public-private partnership. Meanwhile, Perodua's President and Chief Executive Office, Datuk Seri Zainal Abidin Ahmad, said the collaboration offers benefits to both entities as it promotes Malaysia tourism and Perodua products to international travellers. Malaysia Airports Holding Berhad MAHB said that the Penang International Airport has welcomed the arrival of 2 global carriers in October. The airport operators said in a statement today said Qatar Airways has resumed its Doha-Phuket Pulau Pinang route with daily flights, while the Thai Airways International made its debut with daily services to Bangkok. MAHB said these additions serve as a testament to the resurgence of travel tourism in the region. The statement said MAHB local operations recorded 6.8 million passenger movements, or 67% of the group's 10.2 million in October 2023, with both domestic and international sectors chalking up 3.4 million passengers movement each. It also said Malaysian operations reported equally strong performance for both sectors. The international sector saw a 3.6% growth over September 2023 due to a 3.3% rise in airline seat capacity offered, supported by new services from KL International Airport to Zhangjiajie, China by Batik Air Malaysia, Kertajati Indonesia by Malaysia Airlines, and Padang Indonesia by Super Airjet. October's domestic passenger movements, meanwhile, reached 3.8 million passengers, with an average load factor of 81.5%, the second highest to date, after August 2023 recorded 82.2%. Now, coming up in our foreign segment, rescuers break through to trapped India tunnel workers. Israel and Hamas embarked on a 2-day extension today to a truce that has allowed Israeli hostages to be freed from Gaza in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners. Mediator Qatar and Hamas confirmed the extension, and Israeli media reported the government had received a new list of 10 more hostages who would be freed. The 7 a.m. deadline for the previous pause in fighting to expire passed without incident after 11 more Israeli hostages were freed from Gaza overnight. This was matched by Israel with the release of another 33 Palestinian prisoners, the last exchange under the initial deal. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres hailed a glimpse of hope and humanity in the middle of the darkness of war. Israel views the truce as temporary to secure hostage releases and plans to continue its war, with the government agreeing a 30.3 billion shekel war budget that will now go to parliament. Inside Gaza, the Hamas-run health ministry said no fuel had arrived for generators at hospitals in the territory's north despite the truce. And senior UN official Tor Wennesland warned the humanitarian situation remains catastrophic. People walked or bicycled along debris-lined streets where the cars were flattened and buildings torn apart. A cleanup was underway at Gaza's biggest hospital, Al-Shifa, which the Israeli army targeted, saying Hamas had used it as a command center. Rescuers today were seen making preparations to evacuate workers trapped for 17 days inside a collapsed tunnel in the Indian Himalayas. Footage filmed by Reuters partner Ani showed some ambulances reversing into the entrance of the tunnel as rescuers brought in equipment, while more ambulances and emergency vehicles waited outside. Earlier, rescuers had successfully drilled through debris to reach the group of 41 workers. They will now be extracted one by one via a 90-centimeter diameter pipe inserted through the rubble of the collapsed tunnel. The man had been stuck in the 4.5-kilometer tunnel in the mountainous state of Uttarakhand since it caved in nearly on 12 November. Authorities have not said what caused the caved-in, but the region is prone to landslides, earthquakes and floods. Australia will ban imports of disposable vapes in January, the first step in a crackdown aimed at curbing the growing popularity of these nicotine-filled devices with young people. As Health Minister Mark Butler said in a statement, the ban will be expanded in March to include all non-therapeutic vapes, including refillable devices, while importers of vapes for medical purposes will need a permit from the Office of Drug Control. The legislative package will also include a total of 75 million Australian dollars in extra funding for the Australian Border Force and the Therapeutic Goods Administration to enforce the new rules. Despite one of the lowest rates of smoking in the OECD, a group of mostly rich countries, vaping in Australia is growing rapidly, especially among the young. According to government data, around 1 in 5 people aged 18 to 24 vape. Next up in sports, PSG gained a defining moment in Newcastle season. Barcelona coach Xavi Hernandez says tomorrow Champions League match at home to FC Porto could be a potential turning point for his side as they look to clinch a place in the last 16. After a humiliating defeat against Shakhtar Donetsk, a victory over second-place Porto at home will send Barcelona through to the knockout phase and lift some of the tension after the stuttering run of form over the past month. Barcelona won the last of their 5 European titles in 2015 in Xavi's final season as a player at Camp Nou. They failed to make it past the group's stage each of the last 2 seasons, dropping into Europa League on both occasions, and there's renewed concern following the club's worrying run of underwhelming performances.
Per nosaltres és una oportunitat, l'afrontem amb moltes ganes, molta il·lusió, jugant a casa, esperem a la nostra afició, demà necessitem a l'afició més que mai i tant de bo ens surti una nit màgica.
Barcelona are without teenage midfielder Xavi for the rest of the season after he sustained a devastating cruciate ligament injury while on Spain duty. Goalkeeper Marc-Andre ter Stegen is also a doubt for the Porto game after he hurt his back while away with Germany. Now in Group F, Newcastle manager Eddie Howe believes tomorrow's pivotal Champions League match against Paris Saint-Germain will be a defining moment in the English team's season. Newcastle stunned PSG 4-1 in the first meeting at St James Park, but have slid from top to bottom in the standings after successive defeats to Borussia Dortmund and will be unable to reach the last 16 if they lose to PSG.
I think we're at our best. I think every team is at their best when they have that different emotion running through them. So I expect that from the players tomorrow. We're going to need every ounce of motivation, energy to get a result here. This is a defining moment in our Champions League campaign. We're well aware of where we sit in the group and you know what can happen tomorrow, so we're going to give it everything.
Howe's side have been boosted by a Premier League win over Chelsea at the weekend. PSG are second, a point behind leaders Borussia Dortmund in a tight Group F, with AC Milan and Newcastle also targeting the knockout rounds with just 3 points separating the 4 teams. Alright, so that concludes this evening's Malaysia Tonight. In our top story, permanent disaster relief centres to be set up in 9 states. Do tune in to World Today coming up tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. on TV2. From river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Thank you for watching.